Hello everyone, Donkey Storm here, bringing you another Shadowlands class preview, and today we're going to be talking about the Marksmanship Hunter. We've already covered Beast Mastery, and a lot of my personal feelings about MM mirror the ones I had for BM. I'm happy with the tweaks being made to the spec for the most part, and I think Shadowlands is going to be a net positive for players who enjoy the Marksmanship spec. In this video, we're going to be looking at ability changes and talent changes, covenant abilities, and overall strengths and weaknesses of marksmanship. And I hope that in the end, this will help you in your decision making when you choose your Shadowlands class. As always, if you like what you see here, hit that thumbs up button, or please throw me a sub so you can see more WoW content from me in the future. As a quick disclaimer, this video will not be focusing on DPS numbers or where marksmanship will end up in the overall hierarchy of DPS classes. It's just too soon to know that right now. My goal here is to look at how MM will play and whether or not you will find it enjoyable. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Let's begin with your new baseline abilities, what many are calling unpruned abilities. Blizzard's goal in Shadowlands is to create class identity rather than spec identity, meaning that no matter what spec you play, you should feel very much like you're playing a hunter. Part of their plan to achieve this goal is to give back a lot of abilities to classes that had previously been spec specific. For hunters, I don't feel like this is a huge deal, but here they are. Arcane Shot, Eyes of the Beast, Hunter's Mark, Kill Shot, Scare Beast, and Tranquilizing Shot. Of these, Kill Shot is by far the most impactful, especially for marksmanship. It's an execute that can be cast on enemies below 20% health, and I think it will be a really fun addition to the marksmanship spec in particular, and I see it blending in with this spec better than any of the others. As far as changes to existing abilities go, there's nothing too groundbreaking here. The Marksmanship Hunter talent tree receives a few changes. The first talent row remains the same as BFA, but in the second row, Barrage replaces Volley. Row 3, a utility row, is unchanged. In row 4, Hunter's Mark has become a baseline ability and gets replaced with Chimera Shot, which we're already familiar with. On row 5, Binding Shot has become baseline and gets replaced with Binding Shackles, a new talent that buffs your Binding Shot so that targets affected by it deal 20% less damage. On row 6, Barrage has moved and gets replaced with a new talent, Deadeye, which adds a second kill shot charge and causes aim shot to recharge 50% faster after using a kill shot, which sounds like a pretty sweet execute phase talent. Finally, row 7, Piercing Shot has been removed and replaced with Volley, which has been reworked to be like the old Volley we know and love, a targeted ability that rains arrows down for 6 seconds on an area and gives the trick shot effect while it is active. It's going to be so nice to have this back instead of the lame Volley passive that we have now. Next up, Covenant abilities. In Shadowlands, players get to choose from one of 4 Covenant abilities. The Kyrian ability, Resonating Arrow, creates an area at a targeted location, and for 10 seconds your attacks against enemies in that area will ignore line of sight rules, and your crit chance against them goes up by 30%. And this is on a 1-minute cooldown, which seems pretty awesome. The Vithir ability, Flayed Shot, fires a shot at your enemy, causing them to bleed, shadow damage over 20 seconds. Each time Flayed Shot deals damage, you have a 15% chance to gain Flayer's Mark, causing your next kill shot to be usable on any target regardless of their health, and this one is only a 30-second cooldown. The Necrolord ability, Death Chakram, throws a deadly chakram at your current target that will rapidly deal shadow damage 7 times, bouncing to other targets if they are nearby. Each time the chakram deals damage, its damage is increased by 15%, and you generate 3 focus, and this one is on a 45-second cooldown, so there's your AoE ability. Finally, the Night Fae ability, Wild Spirits, applies Wild Mark to all nearby targets within the area for 15 seconds, increasing your damage against them by 5%. These targets also take additional nature damage. This ability is on a 2-minute cooldown. Time and additional testing will tell which of these abilities will be the go-to, but what I like about the Hunter Covenant abilities is that they're all on a relatively short cooldown, and it seems as though they'll line up nicely with Marksmanship's ability to deal massive burst damage. So what does this mean overall for Marksmanship Hunters in Shadowlands? I'd say the core of the spec is going to be changing very little. If you enjoy playing Marksmanship in the past, you'll surely still like it. I think the addition of Kill Shot is going to feel nice. The Covenant abilities seem to line up with the playstyle of Marksmanship really well. I wouldn't be surprised if MM turns out to be the go-to Hunter spec when Shadowlands drops. So if you're still considering marksmanship for Shadowlands after all that, let's take a second to go over the spec's general strengths and weaknesses, which would not have changed much since BFA. First of all, in the way of strengths, marksmanship has traditionally been a versatile damage dealer. It's a spec that can excel at both single target and AoE situations. Currently, hunters struggle with mass AoE as aim shot caps at 6 targets. This is going to be much less of a problem in Shadowlands, as pretty much every class has a cap to their AoE now. Marksmanship is capable of great burst damage with abilities like True Shot, Double Tap, and trick shots in AoE situations. If you've ever played a spec that's too heavily focused on just single target or just AoE, you'll know how frustrating it can be to play in scenarios where your character just can't compete DPS-wise, and that is usually not what we get from Marksmanship Hunter. As a second strength, Marksmanship Hunters do not rely on pets. Okay, I have a hard time with this one, personally because I'm such a big fan of pets, but I know many people will view this as a strength. With the passive ability Lone Wolf, Marksmanship Hunters do 10% additional damage when they have no active pet. So you'll never have to worry about wonky Pet A.I ruining your time. All of your successes and mistakes are your own doing. So if you like the idea of being a lone sniper or bowman, a sharpshooter that can put an arrow up a boar's butt from 200 yards away, maybe Marksmanship would be a good choice for you. Another reason you might want to play an Hunter is that it has a more engaging rotation. In my Beast Mastery Hunter video, I listed easy rotation as a plus, which may be true for some players, but not for everyone. The Marksmanship Hunter rotation is much more nuanced and allows for the player to really get more out of their tune as they learn how to better execute it. Learning how to manage your focus and use the right abilities at the right time can be a rewarding experience and really set a good player apart from a mediocre one. So if you enjoy a little attention to detail in your rotation, you may prefer marksmanship. Now, all specs have weaknesses, and is no different, of course, so let's look at a couple of these, especially relative to the other hunter specs. First of all, we've got mobility. So technically, is the least mobile hunter spec, but it is still pretty mobile compared to many ranged DPS classes, so take this with a grain of salt. Many of your abilities are instant cast, and a few have short cast times. You are definitely not 100% mobile like BM or Survival, so Marksmanship Hunters need to take a little bit of extra care when executing dodge mechanics in order to maximize their DPS. And as a second weakness, we have utility. Compared to Beast Mastery, which can bring Bloodlust, Heal, and a Dispel to the table, depending on what pet they use, Marksmanship lacks this kind of utility. This is particularly detrimental in an environment like Mythic Plus, where all 5 players need to use their characters to their max in order to be successful. So, final thoughts. Looking at marksmanship as a whole, the addition of kill shot and just the way the Covenant abilities seem really marksmanship friendly, it would not surprise me in the least if this spec takes back the title of go-to hunter spec from Beast Mastery in 9.0. I love the volley change and the addition of kill shot, but don't look for anything too wildly new from Marksmanship Hunter. Apparently Blizzard felt good enough with the spec to move forward with only minor changes. I'd really love to see some comments on this one, guys, as I've put way more hours in as a BM hunter in my WoW career than I have as So please let me know what you think. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. And to see more of what I have to offer in the future, I would love to get a sub from you. Until next time, this has been Donkey Storm.